A struggling single dad arrives late to a blind date with a successful CEO. But she waits. And that one Christmas Eve changes 3 lives forever. Before we begin, please hit subscribe if you enjoy heartfelt stories. And drop your city name in the comments below. Now, settle in, grab a warm drink. And let's step into the snow. Snowflakes fell slowly through the dark December sky, like tiny promises floating down. Each one seemed to whisper, something better is coming. The city shimmered with golden lights in every window. In the distance, carol singers sent soft waves of warmth across the freezing night. But walking through that magic came James Carter. A man whose thin, faded coat did almost nothing against the biting wind. His old boots slapped wet prints on the pavement. The cold stung his cheeks. His breath hung in white clouds. And inside his chest, he carried a weight no Christmas lights could lift. Yet tonight, buried deep under all that heaviness, a tiny spark flickered. Hope. The kind he'd almost forgotten he could feel. He was terribly late. Desperately late. For a blind date that had somehow become the most important moment of his entire year. James's life had been quiet pain for a long time. The kind most people never notice. 3 years earlier he'd been an architect, designing beautiful buildings, dreaming of structures that would stand for generations. Then the economy turned. His firm let people go. James was one of the first out the door. His wife, Sarah, had held him together through it all. But cancer doesn't wait for life to get easier. 18 months after the layoff, she was gone. Now he raised their 7-year-old daughter, Lily, alone. A little girl with big brown eyes and curls that bounced when she ran. Mornings started at 5. Porridge or toast, whatever was cheapest that week. A 3-block walk to school, rain or snow. Then the hunt for work. Any work. Delivering parcels. Fixing taps. Shoveling driveways. Mending broken chairs. Anything to keep the flat warm and the lights on. He never complained. Pride wouldn't let him. And anyway, who would listen? But the loneliness crept in during quiet moments. Feeling invisible in a crowded world. Holding so much love with nowhere to give it. That's when his oldest mate, Danny, stepped in. Without asking, he made James a dating profile. You're fading away, mate, Danny told him. You need someone who sees the real you. Not just the struggle. James had been furious at first. Embarrassed. But then a message arrived from someone called Eleanor Hayes. She didn't ask what he did for a living. She didn't dig into his past or his plans. She simply asked, "What's your favorite Christmas memory?" That one gentle question cracked something open inside him. He typed for over an hour. Told her about the year Lily made him a card. Lopsided glitter and crayon letters that read, "You're the best daddy in the whole wide world." It wasn't grand. But it was everything. What James didn't know, couldn't possibly have guessed, was that Eleanor Hayes was no ordinary woman. At 34 she was the founder and CEO of Hayes & Co., a luxury interior design firm whose work filled glossy magazines and the homes of the ultra-wealthy. Her office sat at the top of a gleaming glass tower. Her bank account could have bought half the street James lived on, and barely noticed the dent. She had built it all from nothing. Student debt, a sketchbook, and 16-hour days. Success arrived fast. So did the penthouse, the art collection, the respect. But success also brought loneliness. People saw the title, the money, the power. Never the woman underneath. The last man she trusted had used her. Sold company secrets to a rival. While whispering, "I love you," in her ear. After that, Eleanor built walls. She smiled at galas, gave speeches, cut ribbons. But went home alone to a beautiful, empty penthouse. And felt like a stranger in her own life. Then came James's message about the glitter card. And something inside her softened. He wrote about making snow angels with Lily. Teaching her to whistle. How hot chocolate tastes better when you share it with someone you love. No game playing. No agenda. Just real, simple, human warmth. For the first time in years. Eleanor laughed out loud at her phone. Kept checking for new messages. Felt butterflies that had nothing to do with business. When James suggested they meet in person, she felt something unfamiliar. Nerves. They chose Christmas Eve. A cozy little cafe in the city center called the Copper Kettle. A place she'd walked past 1,000 times, but never stepped inside. That evening Eleanor arrived 30 minutes early. She wore a simple cream coat, cashmere jumper, dark jeans. Nothing flashy. She wanted him to meet her, not her success. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and fresh shortbread. Warm brass lamps glowed against brick walls. White fairy lights twinkled overhead. She chose the little table by the window. Ordered peppermint tea. And watched snowflakes dance past the glass. While her heart beat faster than it ever did in boardrooms. 7 o'clock came. Then went. She told herself the buses were slow on Christmas Eve. Traffic was bad. She watched couples arrive, laughing, shedding scarves. Families filled big tables. Children's giggles floated over soft jazz. 7:30. 8 o'clock. Her tea went cold. She ordered another cup, just to keep the table. The barista, a gentle woman with silver in her hair, gave her a kind, knowing smile that somehow hurt more. By 8:30, the truth settled over her like wet snow. He wasn't coming. She should have known. Good things didn't happen to women like her. Not the real kind. Not the kind that filled the empty ache inside. She reached for her coat, blinking hard against tears. Across town, James was running. Breath burning. Legs screaming. Snow soaking his coat. Lily ran beside him. Tiny hand tight in his. Pink coat bright against the dark. Curls bouncing under her woolly hat. Everything had gone wrong. The neighbor, who usually babysat, had flu. Every other sitter was booked. Danny was 2 hours away at his parents'. James had stood in their tiny flat, staring at the clock. Feeling the night slip away. He could cancel. But he didn't have Eleanor's number yet. They'd planned to swap after meeting. He could just not show up. Let her think he'd changed his mind. But imagining her sitting alone, waiting. That hurt worse than the cold. Daddy? Lily looked up with those huge eyes. So like her mum's. What's wrong? He knelt. I'm supposed to meet someone tonight, love. Someone special. But Mrs. Harris is poorly and I can't leave you. Lily thought for a second. Then. Bright and certain. Then I'll come with you. Lily, sweetheart, you can't come on a date. Mummy always said love means showing people who you really are. She put her small hands on his cheeks. And I'm part of who you really are, right? Tears stung his eyes. Yeah, baby. You're the biggest part. Then we go together. Maybe she'll like us both. So they left. James praying Eleanor would still be there. But the bus broke down 6 streets from home. They waited 20 freezing minutes. No replacement came. So they walked. Then jogged. Then ran. A shoelace snapped. Lily tripped, scraped her knee. James stopped to clean the blood, kiss it better. Every traffic light stayed red forever. Twice he nearly turned back. Shame thick in his throat at the thought of arriving so late. So messy, with his little girl in tow. Like living proof his life was complicated. But each time he slowed. Lily squeezed his hand. "We're nearly there, Daddy. I know she's waiting." "How do you know, sweetheart?" "Because you're worth waiting for." Those words, spoken with a child's pure certainty, gave him the strength to keep going. Inside the copper kettle, Eleanor was pulling on her gloves. When the door flew open, a gust of snow swirled in. Everyone turned. There, framed in the doorway, streetlight glowing behind him, stood a tall black man, chest heaving. Snow melting on his skin, jacket soaked through. And holding his hand, a little girl with cocoa skin, wild curls dusted white. Eyes wide with wonder. Time stopped. Eleanor's hands froze mid-motion. James's gaze swept the room until it found hers. And in that split second, across the crowded cafe, something locked into place. He crossed the floor in 3 big strides. Realization hit as he noticed the expensive coat, the quiet elegance, the signs of a life so different from his. "Eleanor." His voice was rough, wind, cold, fear. "I'm so sorry. I'm James. God, I'm so late. I know this looks awful. I should have called, but I didn't have your number." "Breathe," she said softly, surprised at her own calm. "Sit down. Both of you." She pulled out chairs. James helped Lily off with her coat. Eleanor caught the barista's eye. "3 hot chocolates, please. And whatever biscuits you've got." "I can explain," James started. Eleanor lifted a hand. "You're here now. That's what matters." As Lily wrapped small hands around the warm mug, James told her everything. The flu. The broken bus. The run through the snow. Lily. Sarah's death. The odd jobs. The tiny flat. All the truths he'd tried to soften in messages. Eleanor listened, eyes never leaving his face. She saw the shame, the fear of being judged, the bone-deep tiredness. But she also saw something else. Honesty. Integrity. A quiet courage that had nothing to do with power. And everything to do with showing up anyway. When he finally stopped talking, she leaned forward. "Thank you," she said. He blinked. "For what?" "For being an hour and a half late. For dragging my kid to a date. For looking like this. For being real with me." Her voice trembled slightly. "Do you know how rare that is? Everyone I meet wants something. They perform. They calculate. But you." She gestured to his wet coat, his tired eyes, the little girl between them. "You just laid your whole life open. Even though it terrified you. That's braver than anything I've seen in years." Lily looked up from her hot chocolate. "Are you the lady from the messages? The one who likes snow globes?" Eleanor smiled, a real smile that lit her whole face. "Yes. Your dad told me you collect them." "I've only got 3, Lily said proudly. "But Daddy says that's a brilliant start." Eleanor laughed softly. "You're right. It is." What happened next wasn't like any date Eleanor had ever known. No stiff small talk. No careful steps. With Lily there, an unexpected bridge. They talked about Christmas traditions. Favorite books. The right way to build a snowman. James's shoulders slowly dropped. His smile came easier. His warm brown eyes crinkled at the corners. Eleanor laughed, really laughed. At Lily's story about forgetting her lines in the school nativity. And singing a made-up reindeer song instead. She watched James gently brush snow from Lily's curls. Saw the tenderness in every small movement. And felt something inside her chest finally crack open. This was what she'd been missing. Not perfection. Just truth. Warm. Messy. Real. Tell me about your work, James said later. No judgment, only curiosity. So she did. But not the polished version. She told him about the first flat she ever designed. For an old lady who'd lost her husband. And how the woman cried happy tears when she saw her new living room. She admitted the loneliness at the top. How her penthouse felt more like a gallery than a home. Sounds like you need more snow globes, Lily said seriously. Both adults burst out laughing. The cafe slowly emptied. Closing time crept closer. But the barista, whose name was Margaret, kept finding excuses to let them stay. Finally, when they were the last ones left, Eleanor spoke. Let me drive you home. James hesitated. Pride fought practicality. But Lily was already nodding excitedly. And the thought of the long cold walk. Okay. Thank you. Eleanor's car was sleek, warm, expensive. But as they drove through quiet streets, Lily fell asleep in the back, head on her dad's shoulder. And the car became just a safe bubble, carrying them through the night. This is us, James said quietly, pointing to a modest block of flats, chipped paint, flickering light. Eleanor parked. Neither moved. I had the best time tonight, she whispered. Even with how it started. I can't offer you much, James said, voice low. No fancy dinners. No expensive gifts. My life is messy. Complicated. James. Eleanor turned to him fully. I already have expensive things. I have fancy dinners. What I don't have is someone who runs through a blizzard. Because a promise matters more than pride. I don't have someone who loves a little girl so fiercely. I don't have real. Their eyes held in the dim streetlight. Can I see you again? She asked. Yes, he breathed. Yes. Absolutely. The weeks that followed felt like waking up after years asleep. Eleanor started appearing at the flat. A bag of groceries here. A new winter coat for Lily there. Always casual, always it was extra, or a sample. James's pride bristled at first. But she was clever. And more than anything. Sure. He brought herself. She ate dinner on mismatched plates. Played board games on the saggy sofa. Cheered for Lily's victories like they were her own. She asked about his old architecture dreams. Listened like they still mattered. In return, James showed her a world she'd forgotten. Cheap community Christmas markets. Paper snowflakes at the kitchen table. How to fix a dripping tap. And the small, deep satisfaction of solving something real. With Lily, Eleanor found a kind of love she never knew she could feel. The little girl started calling her Miss Ellie. And every time she heard it, something inside Eleanor came home. One snowy evening in the park. Lily running ahead to look at icicles. James took Eleanor's hand. I need to tell you something. Okay. I'm falling in love with you. I know it's fast. I know our lives are different. But you're the first thing I think of every morning. And the last thing at night. You've made me believe again. Eleanor stopped walking. Pulled him close. I've been falling since the moment you burst through that cafe door. Out of breath, terrified, and completely honest. They kissed, soft, warm against the cold. While Lily shouted she'd found the biggest icicle ever. The months weren't always easy. James struggled to accept help. Eleanor faced raised eyebrows from her board. About late nights missed, weekends gone. They helped Lily through her fear of losing someone again. But they did it together. Spring came gently. Snow melting, green peeking through. On a bright Sunday, James asked Eleanor to meet him at the Copper Kettle. Same table by the window. Same warm lights. But now spring sun poured in. He stood when she arrived. Nerves clear in his eyes. I've been thinking about that night, he began. How you waited when you had every reason to leave. How you saw past the chaos, to me. How you've given me back hope. Second chances. A future. He reached into his pocket. Pulled out a small velvet box. Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth. I don't have much to give you, he said. Dropping to one knee as the cafe went quiet. I can't give you more wealth or big adventures. But I can give you my heart, completely. Forever. Mornings with Lily. Evenings in whatever home we build. Honest love, the kind that shows up. Even when it's late. Even when it's hard. He opened the box. A simple ring. One diamond catching the light like a tiny star. Eleanor Hayes. Will you marry me? Will you wait for me, for the rest of our lives? Tears streamed down her face. Yes, she whispered. Then louder. Yes, James. Yes to everything. The cafe burst into applause. Margaret wiped her eyes with her apron. Even the lad on his laptop grinned. I love you, Eleanor said against his chest. I've been waiting for this since the night you showed me what real courage looks like. That evening the three of them sat together. In what would soon be their shared home. Not the penthouse. But a house they chose together. Not too grand. Not too small. A garden for Lily. A room for James to draw buildings again. Dad? Lily asked sleepily, curled between them. This is what Mummy meant, isn't it? About finding our way back to happy. James kissed the top of her head. His eyes met Eleanor's over their daughter. Because she was theirs now. Truly. Yeah, sweetheart. This is exactly what she meant. That Christmas Eve. A struggling single dad found hope again. A powerful woman learned love doesn't care about status or timing. And three hearts discovered that sometimes the universe doesn't give you what you want when you want it, but sends you exactly what you need the moment you're ready to receive it. Love's greatest strength is that it waits. The right love doesn't arrive on time. It arrives at the right time. And when it does, it's worth every second of waiting. Every difficulty. Every fear. Every frozen step through the snow. Because when it finally arrives, it arrives real. Complete. And worth everything. Just like it did for James Carter and Eleanor Hayes. On a snowy Christmas Eve. When he was late. But she waited anyway. And that made all the difference.